and thank you for tuning in to this episode of Legislative Report. I'm State Representative Matthew Dowling, serving the 51st Legislative District in Fayette and Somerset counties. Today we are talking tourism, and we are in the beautiful gift shop at Frank Lloyd Wright's historic home, Kentuck Knob. And I have two young ladies who are joining me today. We're going to talk a little bit about Kentuck Knob, about the different types of events that you host here, and a little bit about Frank Lloyd Wright in general. So, Marianne, what is your position here at Kentuck Knob?
My position at Kentuck Knob is Manager of Operations. I handle the day-to-day business of the property. We see approximately 30,000 plus visitors a year, and our season runs from March 10th through the end of December. We close in January and February. However, we still work those months. Many of the staff work to prepare for the next season.
Sure, and then also joining us, we have one of the tour guides here from Kentuck Knob. Can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background and what you do here at Kentuck Knob?
I'm Sherry Wade, and as you mentioned, I'm a tour guide, and I'm also an admin assistant here. And my background, I've had a background in the arts and really just wanted to have a job that I was pleased to come to work to. And it's a beautiful drive up here to Kentuck Knob. And so
a statistic that you just threw out there that people who are from the local area may not even realize, because you're located here in Farmington, a little off the beaten trail. You know, I like to think of it as a hidden gem, but 30,000 people a year are coming through the property. And I know we're going to get in a minute to talking a little bit more about Frank Lloyd Wright, his design, and the house itself. But before we get to that, tell me, how do you keep the impact as low as possible with 30,000 people coming from trampling through the property? How do you minimize that impact here?
It's a very good question. So I tell every person that I meet that Kentuck Knob is an exquisite intersection of architecture, art, and nature that unfolds organically in the experience that you have when you come here. So if you can imagine, you know, people park their car, they come on down to this visitor center, they check in for their tour, they take a shuttle up to the house, they don't walk up to the house, and they go up with a tour guide. Tours are limited to 14 people per tour. So those 14 people go up to the house, tour the house with the guide, enjoy that experience, and then afterwards they go outside, take in the view, it's magnificent, and then they can walk down the woodland trail and enjoy interacting with art sculpture. So the pacing is very, very good. We have it down to a science. So they walk down and then they come back to the visitor center and they shop or eat Hagen ice cream. So it doesn't really get ever overly crowded at one time. We are very good at pacing the tour. And that's a good question too, because it's important for us that the visitor has an experience that is relaxed, educational, rewarding, fun, and relaxed. And if it's too overcrowded, then they're not going to have that. So I think that's pretty much how we minimize it, just by our pace, yeah.
So I wanted to ask a little bit about the architecture of the home itself. I know Frank Lloyd Wright has a style that most people would probably be familiar with if they see one of his art pieces, an installation of maybe a light fixture that might have been designed by Frank Lloyd Wright. So people have an idea in their head of what a lot of his design looks like, but a lot of his design also went on a wide spectrum. You have something like the Guggenheim, and then you have that has the rounded corners to the very 45-degree angles and lines that you see in Falling Water, which is also here in our local area. Where on that scale would you put Kentuck Knob, and can you kind of give it a little bit of a description of what Frank Lloyd Wright style people can expect to see here in the home?
Frank Lloyd Wright was known for organic architecture, and he had a quote that basically summed up that he felt that the hill and the home should each be the happier for each other. So one of the unique things about Kentuck Knob is it does not sit directly on top of Kentuck Knob, it sits tucked into the hill. The other unique thing about Kentuck Knob is it's built on a hexagonal grid, so you will see a lot of hexagons in the house, parallelograms as well as triangles.
So let's talk a little bit about the people who would enjoy coming to Kentuck Knob, and how far away do your visitors that are visiting the home come from?
Well, we see visitors from all parts of the world. You know, down the road to Poland, to Italy, Spain, you know, Russia, California, Florida, Indiana, everywhere in the world we see visitors from. And the type of visitor that visits is typically somebody they're interested in architecture, but they're also interested in learning. So our tours are educational, art tours, architecture tours, but also they're interested in nature. So my opinion is that the people that come to Kentuck Knob like architecture, they like art, and they like interacting in the outdoors. There are many, many very outdoorsy people that appreciate nature. Also, they come to learn. They come to learn about the architecture of Frank Lloyd Wright and how they maybe can incorporate that into their personal lifestyle.
So you don't necessarily have to be an architect or an engineer or someone who even enjoys numbers,
No.
you know, because I know there's a lot of arithmetic that goes into the Frank Lloyd Wright design to enjoy the home and the property that's here as well. I know in addition to just tours, you rent your facility out for special events or parts of the facility. Is that correct?
Correct. We have wedding ceremonies here. Up behind the house, nothing is in the house. We do not entertain in the house. But outside of the house, we've had many wedding ceremonies. So people will get married on the view, or they'll have a rehearsal dinner outside on the patio, and then they'll leave and perhaps go to the Summit Inn and have their reception, or to the barn at Falling Water. So we do wedding ceremonies. We also have farm-to-table dinners that we started. This will be our 4th year for farm-to-table dinners, and those are throughout the summer once a month. And they are held down here behind the gift shop. We have a tented area that is decorated beautifully with flowers we grow on the property, and we hire a local local caterer, and it is a quintessential farm-to-table dinner. And within that experience, you can tour the house. So, you know, if you can imagine coming for a dinner, you go tour the house, and then you come down and you have a farm-to-table dinner, and it's just a wonderful experience.
If you are an American historian, I think you would appreciate being here on property, because Frank Lloyd Wright really is an American treasure, and I thought maybe while we have just a couple moments in the segment, we could talk a little bit about his life and his age at the time that he designed the house here. I know he was up there in his senior years, kind of past what most people would refer to as retirement. So I don't know which of you is kind of the expert on Frank Lloyd Wright, but why don't we talk a little bit about his impact on American culture and architecture?
Well, that's huge. I'll give you a snippet, and then you can give me. So to situate you, Kentuck Knob, Frank Lloyd Wright was 86 at the time of Kentuck Knob's. He designed Kentuck Knob. It would be the same time he was working on the Guggenheim Museum in New York City. And to situate you even further, Falling Water was when he was 68. In the 30s. So we have the 30s and we have the 50s. And that's remarkable because we are in the 150th birthday year of Frank Lloyd Wright, which tells a lot about what he accomplished a very long time ago. So I think that that's a very important point to say. The other thing I want to quickly mention is this house was designed for the Hagen family of Uniontown, Pennsylvania, and they had an ice cream company. Now, Frank Lloyd Wright designed this property sight unseen through topographical maps and photographs, and he visited once when the foundation was laid, and he knew that he was going to get it right. That's pretty brilliant, because when you tour the house, you see how amazing that feat was.
So one of the interesting things about Kentuck Knob is it is a Usonian house, and Usonian was Mr. Wright's idea to bring affordable art and architecture to all of middle-class America. So he uses organic elements in this house that blend in, but it was to be affordable, that anybody could afford to build. So when you see the house, you can imagine yourself living in the home, and that's one of the unique things about Kentuck Knob.
If you haven't been to Kentuck Knob before, I would invite you to come out and take a look. It is one of the hidden gems within the 51st Legislative District, something I'm very proud to have in my area. And why don't you give us a telephone number and website, some contact information for those who are looking to schedule a tour?
So the phone number is 724-329-1901. The website is simply kentuckknob.com. And you can purchase tickets for tours through the website or through that phone number line. And if you have questions, we're here to answer those for you as well.
Well, we've made our way from Kentuck Knob into the downtown borough area of Ohio Powell, a unique little community that plays host to quite a number of visitors each year. And we're in Falls Market right now. And joining me is Pam, the proprietor of this great establishment, and also Joel with Ohio Powell Trading Post and Rafting Company. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Ohio Powell because I know you're kind of like the spokesman for the area. You help to organize some of the things going on here. So what are some of the reasons people or visitors come to Ohio Powell? What are some of the things they take part in doing while they're here?
Well, they definitely love to go rafting. Biking's a big part of the reason why people come here, camping, hiking, and to enjoy nature and see the waterfall.
So you have the great outdoors here, and you mentioned biking. Where can you bike from or to when you're coming through Ohio Powell?
Well, running through Ohio Powell is the Great Allegheny Passage. It goes from Pittsburgh to Washington, D.C. The section that goes from Ohio Powell to Confluence is generally rated the #1 section. So we get a lot of traffic. People start in Ohio Powell, they bike either to Confluence or to Connellsville and come back to Ohio Powell.
Now, you know, for the people that are really looking for adventure, I know you can bike, and we bring our kids up, my 4-year-old, my 5-year-old, so we can come up and make a family day out of biking. But for those looking for a little more adventure, Joel, you provide some high adventure or high octane sports with your rafting company.
Yes, we run all 3 sections of the Youghiogheny River. We run the middle Youghiogheny, which is from Confluence to Ohio Powell. The most popular section is the lower Youghiogheny that begins below the waterfall at the new Visitors Center here in Ohio Powell State Park, and it goes 7.5 miles downstream to Bruner Run Takeout. That is a Class 3 intermediate stretch. And then we also do a section in western Maryland called the upper Youghiogheny, Class 4 and 5.
Now, you both deal with visitors that are coming into the area, and I know we want Ohio Powell to be as hospitable as possible. Where are some of the most unique visitors you've ever been from? How far do people come from to visit Ohio Powell?
Well, people come from all over the world to visit Ohio Powell. Falling Water is a giant pool for the area. It's one of the most unique houses in the United States.
We just met the sister property, Kentuck Knob, and did a quick little interview with them over there.
Right. So people will go from Falling Water, which is up the road, and they'll come through Ohio Powell and they'll go to Kentuck Knob. So people come from all over the world to see Falling Water. It's hopefully going to be listed on the UNESCO World Heritage Site list, and that'll make it even more popular. But people come for the biking. They come for the world-class rafting that we have here. This is a very unique town. It's very special in the United States to have a town that's configured the way that Ohio Powell is, and people love to come here and see the diverse nature and the attractions that we have in the area.
So let's talk a little bit about the economic impact, because you know tourism is one of the #1 industries here in the Commonwealth, and especially in the 51st Legislative District where I serve in Fayette and Somerset counties. You know, tourism is just of huge importance. You know, what kind of an economic impact do you think is brought to our community through the tourism here in Ohio Powell?
Well, we're the hub for the tourism industry here in the Laurel Highlands. Ohio Powell makes it happen here spring through fall for the most part. The winter would be our slowest time here because we are in the ridges here, so our elevation causes the weather to be a little bit harsh in the winter. But 8 months out of the year, you know, we draw people in here from you know, the tri-state area for the most part, but we do bring people in from all over the world, as Pam said, for the rafting and for the biking. The Great Allegheny Passage, combined with what goes on the river here, Ohio Powell becomes a very busy place. We get a couple million visitors a summer here to the state park.
One of the busiest state parks, I believe, that's in the state park system, ranked one or two, if I remember correctly. I've been here in the summer when it's hard to even find a parking space throughout the entire borough. So I know how busy it gets, but one of the things I wanted to point out, Pam, especially with you and your business here at Falls Market, we mentioned there's an 8-month season that's busy, but maybe for the locals to get a chance to come up when it's not as busy, you are open year-round, correct?
We're open every day except for Christmas and Easter. Other than that, we're open, and you know, as Joel said, it's typically busier during those 8 months, but people love to come here any time of the year. It's great to come here during the off season. You can still ride your bicycle, you can still go hiking. People like to come see the waterfalls when they're frozen. People like to come see the water when it's high. Just a few days ago, we had a beautiful day in February and town filled up. People have cabin fever, and you can go hiking on a beautiful day in February just as easy as you can in the spring or the summer. So they love to come here every season.
Now, Joel, I know you may not be sending people on rafts down the river today, but I know you're in the office working and taking telephone calls. A couple years ago, I was part of a Rotary group that put together a kids program in the summer, and I know we went out to the schools and we sold that program. So we had to make rafting, as we wanted to be part of the weekend, we had to make our arrangements well in advance so that we could say this is when we're going and add it to the itinerary. So groups that are trying to plan a summer trip right now, are you ready to take their call and, and put them on the schedule?
Absolutely. We do a lot of work in the off season, preparing for the summer season with the rafting. We do a lot of walk-up business throughout the course of the summer, though. People can walk in and add to a trip at any point in time. But the larger the group, that most people will book those in advance. So in the off-season, we spend our time doing our maintenance on our equipment, getting ready for the off-season, plus working on our marketing plans and that kind of stuff. We do any type of building that we need to do, we try to do it in the off season so that during the summer when the guests are coming, then our time is spent dealing with the people, not dealing with maintenance issues.
Now, you know, because we're on legislative report today, we like to talk about anytime there's maybe issues with regulation or taxation and how that affects your business. We like to look at it from that scope. Joel, I know you are kind of involved in a positive program that has been able to help you out, at least this year, with your marketing through the Laurel Highlands Visitor Bureau's grant program, and that comes from the hotel tax that the local county collects. So will you tell me a little bit about how you and the other rafting companies have come together to market through that hotel tax?
Well, the hotel tax has helped us tremendously. What we're able to do, the 4 outfitters, we throw into what's called a co-op marketing plan. So the 4 of us are able to pool our money together, and we can be much more effective with our marketing. Our marketing, we can reach new markets, and we can be more effective when we reach those markets. So, you know, we do a variety of type of marketing. We use social media, we use television, we use radio, and it's a very effective way to bring people to Ohio Powell.
So if someone was looking to learn more about rafting, what would be the best website, telephone number that you could give that they could get in touch with you through?
Well, it's OhioPowellTradingPost.com. That is our website that we run, and it's on all the time. You can book your trip online. You know, you can book in advance. You can see all our upcoming events, anything like that that we have going on for the season. And you can sign up on our email list, so you can subscribe to that, which will keep you up to date to any new events that we have coming or any specials that we may have to offer.
And to contact the market here, Falls Market, how can they get in touch with you, Pam?
We have Stay and Play Ohio Powell. It actually has everybody listed on it and all the places to stay in town, all the restaurants and different attractions in the area. Everything's listed on there. So it's Stay and Play Ohio Powell, and we are actually open year-round, so you can call Falls Market anytime. People call here and ask when the buckwheat supper is, or when Music in the Mountains is, or our famous wine festival, which does a great job supporting the local community. So you can always call Falls Market's number.
Well, thank you both for being here and being on the show with me today, and for being great ambassadors of Ohio Powell to the millions of visitors that come through here each year. We are now in the distillery at Ridge Runner, a relatively new distillery in the Farmington area, and we have been at a number of different tourism locations today. And after a long day, sometimes you need to have a drink of either wine or spirits, and you can help us with both of those here, Christian. This is Christian Clay, namesake of the Christian Clay Winery, which is right across the street. Christian, tell me a little bit first, before we start talking about the still and the new distillery, about the history of the winery that I know your mom started across the street.
My parents bought the farm in 1985. That was the same year I was born. So there's still a running debate about whether I came first or the winery did. But either way, it's it's really been my home, since I was born. And I think in about 1989 was when we first planted our vineyards, and those took a long while to get going, but they were some of the first vineyards in Fayette County. And from there, it was a little too much to make grape jelly, so my mom took the plunge into a business and created the winery in 1997. And they named it after me for reasons I still can't quite understand, but it's been a lot of fun growing up with it. And I'd like to think I've gotten a really good appreciation for wine and for the area in Fayette County.
Now, you have some award-winning wines across the street, and a number of them are named after local landmarks or local tourist destinations. Can you tell us just a quick little bit about some of the wines that you make?
Well, we just really, really love the history of this area. My family's always been huge history buffs. And we just really love having so much really cool history around Fort Necessity, Washington Tavern, several big landmarks. And we thought that we were really honoring sort of the area and the history of the area by naming our wines after many of these historic landmarks. Also, it's just a really cool talking point. We have a little blurb on the back of our wine bottles describing the different historical places that they're named after, and it just really makes giving tours and things really cool because I get to discuss all the history that goes along with every bottle of wine. There's no real, we don't have any sort of special wines that go around with, different historical things, like there's no special reason why Washington Tavern Red is red, but we just wanted to really just embrace the history of the area and, show that through our products.
Now, you mentioned that you get to talk to people when they're coming into the tasting rooms about the history of the local names of your wines. And earlier today we were at Kentuck Knob, and then we were out in the Ohio Powell area, and now we're here with you. And as we've talked to everyone, we've talked about the type of guests or clients that they have that come in. And I noticed here in the distillery a great wall that you have with push pins of people that have been here, and everything from Alaska and Hawaii and Russia to right here around Pennsylvania. There are people. Tell us a little bit about some of your favorite guests that might have come in and where they've been from.
Well, it's hard to pick any single guest, but I mean, we've had people come in from all over the world. I originally started with just a map of the United States, and people have told me I have to get a world map because we have, so many different people from different places coming in. We get, tons of local people, tons of people, from Pittsburgh and Morgantown and, Columbus and, even from the DC area. But it's always really cool to get people from farther away, a little bit more obscure locations. I think we finally completed one of our maps because we had someone come in from Montana, and that was the last one to check off our list. But it's just always fun to, we always ask everyone who comes in, where are you from, what brings you to town, and a lot of people we get are just passing through, but a lot of times we'll have people also who have are interested in wineries and distilleries, and will come from fairly great distances to come check out different wineries and distilleries around here.
So I want to get to talking about the distillery itself, but before we do that, what made you want to go from the wine business to the booze market?
Well, that's really easy actually, because while I grew up with the winery, And I love wine and I appreciate wine. What I really, really love is whiskey. I love bourbon style whiskey, and that's just really what I wanted to do in, in Fayette County and in Pennsylvania. I've been down to Kentucky a few times, and they're all about bourbon down there, and I think Pennsylvania could be the same way. So there's a really nascent industry for whiskey and bourbon industry in Pennsylvania, and I think it has really the potential to grow, into something as big as Kentucky or Tennessee. And I just like everything about it. I like making it and aging it, and of course tasting it. So.
Now your whiskey still has a couple years until you'll be satisfied to bottle it, because I know you're a perfectionist when it comes to those. But you have some great products that are on the shelves right now. I've tried and would put your vodka up against most any vodka that's in the state store, and for a comparable price. What are some of the other items that you sell that you're currently distilling and mixing here?
Vodka's our big one. Vodka, we do really well with our vodka. We get a lot of people who really like it, and I think the big secret with the vodka is the water we use. We use natural spring water from the area, and that's vodka is usually about 40% alcohol, which means it's 60% water. So you can make the best alcohol in the world, but you're going to taste, tap water if you make it out of tap water. So vodka is a big one that I like to do with, because we can source that naturally here. The other thing is our moonshines and white whiskey. We're really trying to get as many of our things locally as possible. So for our whiskeys, we get all of our corn and grain within Pennsylvania. And in fact, next year, we actually had a farmer come and plant corn right across the street on the winery property. So we will be getting about 80% of our grain from right across the street here, which we're really looking forward to. And, I didn't really have a background in making liquor or moonshine and anything or that. So really, I just took the best ingredients I could find, put them together, put them through a still, and through a lot of trial and error, mostly error, we've come out with our products. We have some flavored moonshines now. We currently have an apple pie, a peach, and a root beer. Those are, a lot of fun. They're a little bit lower proof, so, you can sip on them. And then we do a little bit higher proof straight whiskey at 100 proof, which is a little bit more for your moonshine connoisseur, shall we say. And we also do the vodka and the rum. So.
Sure. Now, we're running out of time in our segment today. I'm sure that if people wanted to order from you here in the state of Pennsylvania, they can do so through your website or contact you, and we can put that information here on the screen. Okay. I also want to talk, since this episode's all based on tourism, I want to mention just some of the agri-tourism opportunities that you have here. You're a working farm growing the grapes and now some of the grain products that you're using at the distillery, but you also have special events here on property. Yes. Will you tell me just a little bit about some of those special events? Sure.
The winery right across the street does most of our special events. We have a 1880s bank barn that we do a lot of weddings and corporate events in. We also have a pavilion for and a stage for music and entertainment like that. We do tons of tours. So, if you're interested at all in alcohol production or, that part of agriculture, we offer tours that will take you through the winery, including a tasting, all the way through the vineyard, where people can actually see the grapes growing and how they're picked and harvested and pruned. All the way through that process, and then they can see the next step coming over here, taking some of that wine, putting it through the still, and turning it into things like port and brandy. So, there's a lot of distilleries, there's a lot of wineries, but there's not so many wineries with distilleries where you can see the entire
And you can
process.
tour both right in the same visit. Mm-hmm. Hey, thank you so much for letting us take a look. Mm-hmm. And thank you for tuning in to Legislative Report. I'm State Representative Matthew Dowling.
Bye.